Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another Monday Conversations with the Masterful Raconteur. I am yours truly, Florida's own Barry S. McLeod, the right kind of different. Every Monday, somewhere around this time, I come to you with another conversation about something. Many times I talk about my writing journey and my experiences as the creative that I am. And then sometimes I kind of deviate into a different direction and talk about some other things. Today, I want to talk about something that somebody might consider it on the controversial side. Um, Somebody might get a little upset or perturbed with me about this. Uh, you know, whatever the case is going to be, um, we're going to let the pieces fall where they may, okay? This conversation is brought to you by bbingin.com. That's bbingn.com. And you can go to bbingin. You can check out some very excellent independent films, plays, music videos, documentary, just a variety of independent stuff that's really, really good for only $2.99 a month. Okay. Check out bbingin.com. Today, I want to pose this to you. What do you think, really? Like, what do you really think about this topic today? Churches, banks, faithful tithe payers. Okay. Yeah, this is one where a lot of times people in the church, they get a little sensitive. But this is a good measurement, I think, for anybody who is in the church, loves the Lord, and is paying attention to the right kind of detail, especially where it pertains to your salvation and your well-being, okay, and your family. You know, preachers all the time talk about paying your tithes and stuff, right? Now, me, I am very, very content playing, being a musician in a small church. You know, I remember some years ago, I decided to go to a larger church. I don't know, maybe it was a borderline mega church. I don't know what the criteria for that is, but I know they had two services, and I know that they averaged about 800 people or so, maybe even 1,000 people in each of their services. And I just wanted to see what that would experience is like, because I I'm used to being in smaller churches, and I've watched a lot of the uh, uh, ministries on television that were mega churches and stuff, and I have my own opinion and my own feelings about mega churches. First of all, I'm not against a mega church. I'm not against um, people who thrive off of money. Whatever floats your boat. I can't get you into heaven, and you can't get me in there. So, but I pay attention to detail, and I try to learn things, and I try to learn things for the sake of my own well-being and my own understanding, and who should I give my precious minutes to when I'm trying to um, have a closer walk with God. So again, I'm accustomed to, and still currently at this time, I'm accustomed to smaller churches. But I want to put some churches into spotlight, particularly churches that have large ministries and congregations that qualify for mega church or almost a mega church. I kind of grew years ago. I grew sick and tired of listening to preachers talk about you just sow a seed and God is going to bless you. He's going to deliver you a blessing financially, and he's going to do this and do that for you. And I just watched my grandmother be such a faithful church-going woman her whole life, or at least my whole life. Now, it wasn't her whole life, but my whole life. From the time I was born, my grandma was a devout church-going member, and she actually insisted that I go to church living in her house. My grandmother had a sister who she was a devout churchgoer, and I lived with her for a while, and I had to go to church, to her church. It was different denominations, and then eventually I would live with my mother and my wonderful stepfather, and that was military, and so there was a different church, and even though I always loved God, I was just tuned out a lot. I was tuned in certain moments and in certain situations, and in other situations, other moments, I was tuned out. But once I became an adult and I had lived and, done things that I wanted to do and come to that point where I realized, I said, man, I need the Lord, man, in a more personal way. That's when the shift came in my life, and I started paying attention to churches, what was going on. And I noticed how you got these prosperity preaching pastors, this and that. I'm not knocking them, do your thing. I'm looking at all of these members and a lot of these big churches there. They put a lot of emphasis on tithe payers. I don't know if it's true or not, but I caught a little clip of a story about how, I don't know if it's true, about Pastor Warren Sapp or whatever. I think that's who it was. He supposedly locked the doors to the church, something like that. I don't know if that had to do with money, altar call, all of the above, what it was. But anyway, I don't even care. But these pastors, that they put all of this emphasis on money. And yes, we know that it takes money to do God's business. It takes money to do business, period. So I started thinking, a whole lot. Now, this is not new. I've had this conversation with a lot of people over the years, but I've just decided I would bring it to my Monday conversation and just challenge people to respond and tell me what you think. Now, my way of thinking is this. Let's look at this thing this way, if you will. A church that, let's say a church has 2 services, right? 8 o'clock service on Sunday and 11 o'clock service on Sunday. That's 2 services. Let's say that in each one of those services, they have 2,000 people attending. Now, we know that some of the churches is more than that. But I'm just using this as an example to make my point. Okay. You got 2,000 people. Everybody's not a faithful tithe payer. I wonder how many people are a faithful tithe payer, right? But I want to break the thing down like this. A faithful tithe payer, a service of 2,000, may as well say 4,000 people in one day. How many faithful tithe payers? How many people are even putting offering into the service? But more specifically, faithful tithe payers. You let's say you've been in the church all of these years and you're a hardworking person, you're everyday person, you're working your butt off, you're trying to get ahead in life, you're trying to do better for yourself. You've been you if you had $1 or $100 for every sermon you've experienced where the pastor was saying sow a seed and God is going to bless you, you probably have a nice little piece of change, because most of us have heard that sermon so many times. Now, all of this money goes into that offering plate, into the treasury department. And I would imagine, I'm just thinking normal case scenario, that money is deposited into a bank account, right? Okay. How many of you ever stopped and really thought about how much money that actually is? If you're talking about a mega church, even a church that has as little as a strong 700 faithful tithe payers every week, up to however many. But let's just keep it simple, 700 faithful tithe payers every week. Faithful tithe payers, they tend to pay their tithes whether they attend church that day or not. They make sure that they honor the Lord and bless the Lord with their tithes. That's why I call them faithful tithe payers, So they make sure that they pay their tithes. So I did some numbers that I want to challenge you with. 700 members, and I'm going to keep it very simple, very, very simple. I'm dealing with minimums here, okay? 700 faithful tithe payers pay $50 each week to their church. That is, if I got my numbers right, that is $35,000 a week that goes into that church. I'm not talking about what's being done with the money. I'm saying $35,000 1 week goes into the church. You multiply that by 4 weeks. We're not going to count fifth Sunday. You multiply $35,000 times 4, and you get $140,000 a month that has went into that church offering. In 12 months and 1 year, that $140,000, it turns into $1,680,000. And if you rock that for 3 years, you're talking about $5,040,000 that went into that church, that left that church and went into the bank. Okay? Keep up with me here, because I'm going somewhere with this. Now, let's say there's a church that has 1,200 people, faithful tithe payers, that pay $50 a week, just $50 a week. 1,200 times 50 is $60,000 1 week. In 1 month, that's $240,000. In 1 year, that's $2,888,000 times 3 years. That's $8,664,000. In 1 year, $2,888,000. And in just 3 years, that's $8,664,000. Now let's up it a little bit and keep the minimum here. Let's say it's 3,000 faithful tithe payers who pay only $50 each week. That is going to total up to $150,000 in 1 week, times 4 weeks and 1 month. That's $600,000 in 1 month. So in 1 year, that's $7,200,000 in 1 year. And if you rock that for 3 years, you're talking about $21,600,000 in 3 years with just $50. Now, anybody that knows anything about church, you know that faithful tithe payers on average pay far more than $50 a week. Okay? So let's just look at these numbers. So I feel like this. You just tell me what you think. If I'm the pastor of a church and I'm preaching to my members, especially or more especially my faithful tithe payers, I'm saying to them, sow a seed. God is going to bless you. You're going to get your return. He's going to bless you exceedingly and abundantly. And you're going to enter into the land of milk and honey, et cetera, all the different, you ever wondered how is that going to actually materialize? Most people, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that most people think money first. They don't think about health first. A lot of people think about health. A lot of people think about health and money, but the average person would love to have a financial breakthrough. And that's just fact. Okay? So now, if I'm the pastor and I'm taking $8 million of my faithful tithe payers' money, and I am depositing in that money into the bank. Again, of course, we have bills to pay. We have overhead. Okay? And I get that. But now, if me as the pastor, the leader of the church, if I am putting millions of dollars into a banking institution, there is really no excuse for me to not have a relationship with the manager of that bank, the head manager of that bank. I just don't see it. If I'm putting that much money in their bank, whoever is the top man or woman manager of that bank, they should know me personally. Okay? So let's start right there. Now, I would take the position of this. I would say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Bank Manager, as you can see, in 3 years, I'm going to take I don't think I got confused here. I'm going to take the 1,200 members. I got another breakdown here. 1,200 members. Let's say it's some husband and wife teams in there, right? 1,200 members, faithful tithe payers. Now, I'm not talking about just the regular members, because regular members, they put in whatever they put in. Usually faithful tithe payers, they do 10% of their income, for those of you who don't know. Okay? So if you took 1,200 members and they put $300 a week on average, say husband, wife, whatever the case is, whatever, people got a lot of different pay statuses, man. And, so 10%, just guesstimate. So if you did $300 a week, that would be $360,000 times 4 weeks would be $1,440,000 times 12 months, 1 year. That would be $17,280,000. And if you rock that for 3 years, then that is $51,840,000 that went into somebody's bank. And that kind of money, there's no way that my church, the people that represent this money that's going into this bank, there's no way that the manager of that bank does not know me personally. And with that relationship, if I'm the pastor, I'm going to sit down with that manager of that bank, and I'm going to say, hey, look, this much money is coming into your bank, and you're making money off of this money. That's what banking is, okay? Now, the people who are responsible for consistently putting this much money in your bank, ma'am, sir, I have to be responsible to see to it that God utilizes me to be a apparatus or a tool or whatever to make sure that these people see some type of a breakthrough financially in their lives. Just to give you a small idea, $300 a week times 4 weeks is $1,200 a month times 12 months. That's $14,440 a year, right? So the interest rates, they vary, but if a person got I pulled some stuff off of the internet, and I'm not an accountant, so I might have some of this off. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at 7%, you're talking about with $300, let's see, 14. You're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood. No, at 0.007%, you're talking about $180.80. And if you're talking 0.7%, you're talking about $1,008. So I think that these pastors of these mega churches is putting all of these millions of dollars in these banks. I think that they should structure some type of a investment plan or for every individual tithe payer so that they can get some kind of financial blessing in some way. $1,008 a year, it may not be a lot of money to a lot of people, but that's some money. Furthermore, I would boldly sit in front of the bank manager, and I would tell him or her, I would say, because these numbers I'm using are basically minimum numbers. You're talking about a mega church and faithful tithe payers, there's probably on average $100 million a year going into a bank. I feel like with that, if a member of my church want to get a car loan, they need a new roof on their house, they want to go on a vacation, normal things that people need. Whatever the credit score say, that's what it say. But so long as their name is on this verified, endorsed by me, faithful tithe payer list, I feel like they should get that loan. What do you think about that? See, because when the pastor of the church who is handling the financial business of the church and doing business with a bank and literally doing millions of dollars, why would that pastor not have the courage and the gall, if you want to put it that way, to approach the bank manager and say, no, the reason why you are making money off of all of these millions of dollars is because of these hardworking people in this church that I pastor that are faithful and putting their tithes money in this church. Why should they come down here to your bank for a loan and you say, well, let me see what your credit score is. And no, your credit score, you're not good enough to get a loan. Yeah, we see you got a job and you've been working on it for a year or two or three or four, but your credit score don't qualify for you to get a car or a new roof on your house. See, I think that if you're a real pastor, if you're really standing behind your words when you preach to people and say, keep giving to the church, keep giving to the church, and God is going to give you a financial breakthrough, I think that you must be instrumental in creating possibilities for that to happen for your faithful tithe payers. Again, I'm not talking about people who come to the church and put whatever amount of money they want to put in. I'm talking about these people that every week them faithful tithe paying money is in that collection plate, in that account, however you all collect it, ATM, offering in the church, send it in, sent money, however it is. When you're dealing with millions of dollars like that, I think that a pastor, it is necessary, it is incumbent upon him to do complete business, not just for the bank, not just to take all of this money and add another building on to the church, another part of the church, multi-purpose room for this and bowling alleys and all of this kind of stuff. That's nice. If you got millions, if you raising millions of dollars like that, you should be able to do all that. But if you're people, there's probably faithful tithe paying people who are doing so well, making six and upper six figures, and maybe some millionaires who they could care less about that. But there's people in the church who are making $60,000 a year, $30,000 a year, and they are faithful tithe payers. And all of that money, all of these different amounts, they add up to all of those millions of dollars. Now, if you just touched in with me, I'm not talking about the small churches. Small churches, man, we try to do the best we can. I'm talking about these churches that have at least 700 strong members week after week after week. 700 plus strong members week after week after week. All of this money is going into this bank. Yes, you're paying your overhead with this money, but all of these millions of dollars are going to this bank. And what is that bank doing for these faithful tithe members? That's the argument that I have. What is that money doing for the faithful tithe payers? I don't think it's right that you keep selling somebody these stories. I watched my grandmother when I was a child. Obviously, she was there when I was born. But as a child, I watched my grandmother struggle. I watched my grandmother give her faithful tithes money to the church every week. And she was washing clothes, ironing clothes, cooking, doing maid service for people who had money. You know, I'm not going to put color on it. Y'all can pretty much figure that out. Okay? But she's taking her little money, she's taking care of us, and she's making sure that the church got her money. My grandmother never did see the land of milk and honey financially before she left here. She never did. And I know that there's millions of other people who can say the very same thing. My parents never saw it. They struggled all the way to the end. And look at these banks. They done built more banks. They done merged with other banks. They done bought up all of this property. They got all this real estate. They are filthy, filthy, filthy rich. A lot of that comes from faithful tithe payers' money. Now, how much longer are we going to go, pastors, telling people to sow a seed, to give, and God is going to bless you? What are you doing with all of this money that's going to the bank? Again, I'm not talking about the small churches who are just struggling just to try to keep the lights on. We all know that COVID came and impacted everybody, even a lot of the mega churches. Okay, but in a lot of your mega churches, you not only have the faithful tithe payer money, but a lot of the faithful tithe payers, they buy the tapes, they buy the books, they support all the conventions and all the extra stuff. And these are faithful tithe payers. They spend so much of their money to a church. And like I say, if you take 1,200 faithful tithe payers and you multiply, each one of them paid $300 a week. In 3 years, you're talking about $51 million, $51,840,000. This is just a guess, a random figure that I came up with to deal with minimums. So, you pastors, some of y'all go to your pastors and have a conversation with them. Say, hey, look, we want to see you sit down with that bank manager and, work something out. So the next time that I need a car, I don't hear about my credit score. I'm a faithful tithe payer. I'm on this list. Use that leverage that you have. Because you can always look that manager in the face and say, wait a minute, hold it. You talking about my members' credit score? No. Let's look at these figures here. Let's look at this amount of money that these members are putting into your bank. No, that's what we need to look at. I would like to see that kind of challenge happen. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Every week I come with a conversation. I try to challenge y'all. Sometimes I just try to share something with you just for entertainment purposes. This is not for entertainment purposes. This is for a real challenge. I really would like to see more pastors do more for their faithful tithe payers. Yeah, I really would like to see that. So thank you for touching in with me. Leave a comment. Set me straight. Maybe I got it wrong. Leave a comment. I welcome it. And maybe we can talk about it again, So let me know what you think. I am making a movie, a comedy movie. I do have a GoFundMe account out there. And I'm so grateful that there's some people who have already donated to the GoFundMe account. I so much appreciate that. So much. I was just telling some friends just last night, I'm like, man, when I do a post on Facebook here, I say, hey, look, y'all, here's my GoFundMe account. And I tell everybody about my movie and everything. And I get all the likes and the love buttons and some comments. Go, Barry. Yeah, man, you the man. You can do it. Don't give up. You keep believing. I'm like, if each one of them would have gave me just $1 to support it, I would have had at least $100 right now. I don't beg for money. But I do have to be tenacious enough and smart enough, courageous enough to ask, So, I'm not trying to go and buy me a new car. I have a car. But I want to produce this movie, and it's going to cost some money. And so those of you who don't mind, when you see the GoFundMe account, any amount, don't matter, $1, we will be grateful. We're going to be going into production very soon. And we just would really appreciate all the support that you give us. Grateful for. If it's a penny, we're grateful for it. So I'm going to touch out now. I'll be back next Monday, and those of you who are already in my circle, y'all will be hearing from me regularly like you always do anyway. I appreciate it. I hope I open somebody's eyes with this. I may not be as exact as I desire to be, but the most important thing that I wanted to accomplish with this is just to open somebody's eyes, to get somebody to really stop missing the opportunity to pay attention to the right kind of detail. You're giving your money. Have a bigger, clearer understanding of what's actually happening with your money. Okay? Your money is building so much stuff around you. Homes, houses, businesses, you name it. And what do you actually have for putting your money out there like that through the Lord's house. You really need to get serious and think about that, because if your pastor is not already doing something like that, I promise you he can do a hell of a lot more than what he's doing with all of the millions of dollars that he put in somebody else's bank that come from your wallet, from your hard work. So anyway, thank y'all for touching in with me. Florida's own Barry S. McLeod. You can visit me at barrysmcleod.com. And don't forget to go to bbingen.com, bbingn.com. Y'all have a blessed evening. I'll see you next week.